Hi guys, this is Sarfraz from Aristotle Prep, and we are looking at question 96 from the OG 13 Critical Reasoning chapter. This is a very interesting question. It is not a difficult question. If you ask me, I think it's a very easy question. However, the problem is that there are two options which are very similar, or so it looks, and students tend to really get foxed between those two options. And this is a perfect example of a question where if you have an answer in mind before you go to the options, you will get the answer right. Otherwise, you might just go wrong. So that way, it's a very interesting question. Not a difficult question, but it is those two options that make it tricky. So the stimulus says, although parapsychology is often considered a pseudoscience, it is in fact a genuine scientific enterprise. For it uses scientific methods such as controlled experiments and statistical tests of clearly stated hypotheses to examine the questions it raises. If I paraphrase, all the argument says is parapsychology is a genuine scientific enterprise because it uses scientific methods. That's it. What the methods are, who cares? So, what is the assumption then? Very straightforward. Anything that uses scientific methods must be a genuine scientific enterprise. That's basically the assumption in the argument. With that thought process, I will look at the options. So A says, if a field of study can conclusively answer the question it raises, then it's a genuine science. But the argument never says that you have to conclusively answer any question. It's all about examining. How are the questions being examined? So A is irrelevant. B says, since parapsychology uses scientific methods, it will produce credible results, could be an inference, but it is not an assumption. Don't confuse the two terms. C says, any enterprise that does not use controlled experiments and statistical tests is not genuine science. Hold on to this because a lot of people like this option. D says, any field of study that employs scientific methods is a genuine scientific enterprise. Hold on to this also. This is the prediction that I had made earlier. And it is just the opposite of C, where the confusion happens. C and D are kind of saying the same thing, or so it seems. E says, since parapsychology raises clearly stateable questions, they can be tested in controlled experiments, not the assumption by any stretch. So it is between C and D that students often get confused. If you had an answer in mind, you would know that D is the correct answer. But why is C not the correct answer? Let me give you another example to explain this. If I say that every time it rains, the road gets wet. Very simple. Every time it rains, the road gets wet. From this statement, can I conclude that just because the road is wet right now, it must have rained? Can I conclude that? I obviously can't, because there are several other ways also in which the road can get wet. What if somebody comes and throws a bucket of water on the road? Then also the road will get wet. So just because the road is wet, I cannot conclude that it must have rained. But if it has rained, then I can definitely conclude that the road must be wet. So you see, the connection only goes in one direction, does not go in both the directions. So in this case, the problem with C is, the argument says something is a genuine scientific enterprise because it uses scientific methods. However, it does not say that this is the only way, using scientific methods is the only way something can be considered a genuine scientific enterprise. For all you know, there can be 10 other ways also in which something can be considered a genuine scientific enterprise. One of those is that it uses scientific methods. So C, that says that any enterprise that does not use controlled experiments is not genuine science, is not correct, because it could still be genuine science because it satisfies some other criteria. So C is not correct for that reason. D is perfect because as long as the enterprise is utilizing or employing scientific methods, it must be a genuine scientific enterprise. So this is a very important concept. I hope you understood it, that the connection only goes from A to B, does not come back from B to A. So D would be the answer to the question. And for this confusion between C and D, I would give this question a high difficulty rating of 3.5 or 4 out of 5. Have a nice day.